This is the second time I'm recording this video. It's been a hard one to make, but here we are. Paper Mario, one of the most iconic N64 games of its time. Following the success of Super Mario RPG, Nintendo gifted us with a fantastic sort of follow-up. Even though we didn't have Square working alongside Nintendo for this fantastic N64 game, we still got a lot of the things that we came to love from Super Mario RPG right from the get-go. It was very clear that Nintendo wanted to follow up and continue a line of fantastic RPGs. As we now know, that focus definitely has shifted after Thousand Year Door. Paper Mario basically became a completely different franchise that just experimented with completely different things, and it's subjective whether or not you find these properties better or worse. But this video is not about the Paper Mario line and the shift of attention to Paper Mario and all that stuff. This video is going to be on specifically Paper Mario on the N64, and not just that, it's going to be about the speedrun of Paper Mario. Over the past little while on stream, I spent a good chunk of time learning how to speedrun Paper Mario. I was doing so because I wanted to make a video like this one, and to do so, I needed to put myself into the shoes of a speedrunner to really learn the ins and outs of the Paper Mario speedrun. Now, if you're a follower of this stream, then you may or may not have taken part in the live streams in which I spent a lot of time dedicated to learning how to speedrun Paper Mario and learning all the ins and outs and giving my own thoughts, my own take on the run itself and how it is structured. However, if you're just finding out now, for some reason, that I do stream on Twitch, then consider following my stream link in the description. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the Paper Mario N64 speedrun. We're going to be separating this video up in chunks. Basically, we're going to be going through every chapter, and I'll be giving you my thoughts and my own little anecdotes on what I thought about the chapters therein, and then we'll be rounding out the video at the end with a overall opinion on the run itself. This is not a guide on how to speedrun the game. I will be missing most major details of the game. Before we actually get started into the video and everything, I just want to do a quick shout out to JCog, who is a big prominent figure in Paper Mario speedrunning, who actually has guides posted on their YouTube channel on how to speedrun the game, and it's way more thorough and descriptive. And if you really want to learn how to run the game, I recommend checking out those videos. I'll also leave a link to the actual written guide in which you can actually follow along when learning the run. So please don't take my video as a means to learn the run. Do your research and definitely look into the community at large. I am not a pillar of the community. I'm merely a guy wanting to illustrate my opinion on the run as a whole. When going into Paper Mario speedrunning, I actually thought it was going to be a lot easier to pick up than I later discovered. On a surface level, it just feels like you're following a set of instructions to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. But as I would come to learn, it was definitely a lot harder than I was honestly mentally prepared for. If you know anything about speedrun communities, you'll know that they have a lot of categories that various rules will sit under. That's because the shortest time to complete certain games can actually be multiple ways, and it involves doing very different things. For example, there's an 80% run of Paper Mario, which requires you to perform ace trickery in Ocarina of Time in order to manipulate the save file and warp way to the end of the game in Paper Mario. This was obviously a major discovery, which prompted the moderators to adjust the rulings on a lot of the categories so that people just don't outright dominate the category by doing one thing. Plus, it's just a really hard speedrun to do, and it would gatekeep a lot of people that just want to have some fun and speedrun the game. Now, with that out of the way, I chose the glitchless speedrun to learn, which is considered to be the easiest speedrun of Paper Mario to learn to get people into the game. Learning the glitches and stuff takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of attention off of just learning the intricacies of getting through the game on a normal basis. But with that said, there's actually multiple routes implemented for the glitchless speedrun, and the later routes will become faster, but they are harder. So I went with the beginner route here, which is still not too shabby of a end time, but you are missing out on some optimizations that you can be getting in later routes, but those are reserved for higher advanced players that are very much way more experienced in the game than I am. I'm not experienced in Paper Mario at all, but hardly know a thing about the game. I streamed it casually last year, and it was a really fun time. I had a good time going through it, and it's a great game, and it's certainly not a difficult game for people on a casual level to like grasp, but most certainly my knowledge of Paper Mario is very thin, and a lot of these speedrunners, you know, have spent hours and hours and hours of their childhood and growing up just playing Paper Mario over and over again, so a lot of them just have a lot of internal knowledge and core memories of Paper Mario that's much easier for them to actually do these types of runs. For me, I had to come in and actually learn about Paper Mario more than I was prepared to learn. I came in thinking this should be pretty cut and dry. If I follow the speedrun route, I should be able to understand the game a little bit more, but no, you definitely want to know more about the game going in. I'm glad though that I at least had a casual stream of Paper Mario to get me like kind of juiced up into it. But I also know I would have valued having played the game way more than I did. That being said, it wasn't impossible for me to get into it, and I knew going in that it wouldn't be a free type of speedrun to learn. But I wasn't prepared to how hard it was going to be. So follow me, will ya, as we talk about it chapter by chapter. So let's talk about the prologue. So beginning our story, Peach is inviting everyone to the castle for a party and a celebration. And of course, Mario and Luigi are going to be invited to celebrate with Peach, obviously. Upon entering the castle and meeting up with Peach, we are met with a disturbance of Bowser. Not surprisingly, Bowser's up to his shenanigans in the end, but this time he's gone a step further than the usual kidnap the princess gag. This time not only is Bowser kidnapping the princess, but he's in fact kidnapping the entire castle. It is shortly revealed after that Bowser has hidden an entire castle complex right under the castle somehow. That's never really explained. I don't know how he was able to do that, but whatever. Anyway, the castle was lifted off the ground and sent into the sky, where effectively the entire castle and Peach are kidnapped, as well as everyone else in the castle. Of course, Mario gets kicked out of the castle because Bowser doesn't want to deal with Mario hanging around, because he knows that Mario will do something about it, and we will eventually come back to Bowser. Bowser also reveals that he has a star rod, which is giving him invincibility. He also reveals that he has hidden all these star spirits that power the rod in various parts around the world, so that as long as they are not put together, Bowser will be safe from any harm with his star rod. So it's a pretty interesting predicament, but also not super complex that it's going to be hard for new players to understand. So of course it's our job to stop Bowser. And what better place than to start with the game's tutorial section. Now, the game's tutorial section as a speedrun is actually a lot harder than I was prepared to deal with. On a surface level, you're kind of just going through the motions, learning how the different little mechanics work, and picking up a little more mechanics along the way. It's meant to show the player the basic fundamentals of Paper Mario, so that when they get into Chapter 1 and beyond, they'll feel like, okay, they have an understanding of how the game works, and they are prepared to kind of tackle it on a larger scale. It's a very short chapter, but as a speedrun, it can be very punishing. These are the types of speedruns too, that if you choose to reset and start a new run, you're met with a slew of cutscenes that you can't skip. The intro prologue is just caked in so many cutscenes. Very punishing, and oftentimes you're just better off not resetting because you're wasting more time just finishing a run that has time loss than just, you know, resetting and watching 20 plus minutes of cutscenes. But anyway, once we have full control of our character again, we will be making our way through the prologue section. This is where we're going to meet Goombario, our first partner. This is where we're going to get our hammer and learn that we can smash things with the hammer. This is where we're going to meet Junior Troopa, who's going to be a big headache for us later in the run. Now, while I'm not entirely proficient on later iterations of the speedrun that are faster, the beginner run requires us to collect a lot of coins initially, though later, and we'll get to that in chapter 2, coins will be relevant after that point. So a lot of what the route kind of discovered and figured out and made work makes it easier also on the player to not have to manage money. You see, when you collect coins in the game, that's all fine and good. However, if you are to run away from an enemy battle that you don't want to fight, you end up losing a random assortment of coins. I think it's between 1 and like 6 coins, which in a run like this is devastating. You absolutely do not, under any circumstances, want to lose any coins. And Prologue is really where you get to decide whether or not you want to run Paper Mario, because it's hard. The first section of track here, where we're going from left to right heading to the red and blue Goomba battles, we have to avoid every enemy. Basically, and the gist of this whole run is, we are not going to fight anything we aren't supposed to fight. We will be avoiding all optional battles. And this is very important in the first part of this run because we need to preserve our coins. It would be not a big deal to accidentally run into battles here and there if coins didn't matter, because then you can just run away for free for the most part, although some battles make it really difficult. But the coin loss is going to be equivalent to how much time loss you get. It's really just another thing that you'll need to improve on later. But here, it matters the most. While we're already collecting little bits of coins here and there in the prologue, this first section is really tricky, and there's a lot of interesting movement and timing tricks you can go with to try and help kind of navigate around these enemies in this first section. And this one, I was batting my head against the wall for quite a while. I think I spent a good 20 minutes on this one room just kind of figuring out, okay, what do I need to do? And even then, in practice runs and other such, I still would mess up this part. Also, we haven't fully unlocked every feature in our Paper Mario yet. Through the course of the tutorial, we don't unlock all of the battle features, and these are automatic unlocks, and the point is the game rolls them out for you slowly so that you can learn them one by one and have a better understanding. So another thing that makes this part difficult is that we can't run away super consistently. I think like we can run away mostly fine, but like there is a chance that we just won't run away in a lot of these battles. And the reason is, normally in battles, if you want to run away from a fight, you just have to toggle the runaway button and you have to mash A and try to make sure the green bar is in that OK range. If the OK range is outside that green bar, then you'll be failed to run away. However, in the beginning section, you don't get a green bar because that feature hasn't been unlocked to you. And I think that feature is just unlocked to you when you unlock the action command, which also we don't have. And this is actually okay because action command, as we'll see later, is where a lot of the skill comes into speedrunning Paper Mario, or even just really playing Paper Mario in general. So there's that. We don't have an active runaway button. We just have to hope that the game is nice when we attempt to run away from an enemy. So we really just don't have a lot going for us in an area that's just infested with enemies. And this is made because in the design of the game, casually, they want you to interact with enemies and learn the game and have fun with these little basic enemies, get some EXP and all of that. But a big reason why the game doesn't even allow us to finish battles, even though obviously the obvious reason is they just waste a lot of time for these optional battles. But another big reason the game doesn't at all want you to do these optional battles is because it messes up what is known as the EXP route. Now, the EXP route is very common in many speedruns of RPGs. Essentially, the routers and the community gets together and they find out the most proficient way to level up while also maintaining a constant pace of movement throughout the game. A lot of these games end up skipping a lot of sections that you might have to sit there and grind for just to get to a certain level. However, this comes at a major caveat. If we deviate from the EXP route in any way, this will upset future parts in the run in which leveling up is actually insanely important. You might be thinking, well, if I level up super early, wouldn't that be good? But the answer is no. It's actually not good in these types of runs. Now, in Paper Mario specifically, whenever you level up, you heal all your stats. So you heal all your health and you heal all your flower points, which are insanely relevant in this speedrun. The way a lot of these level ups are timed is where it provides us with a free heal. This also alleviates the concept that we're constantly having to run back to a heal block or carry a bunch of mushrooms just to stay alive. Instead, we can have this consistent movement throughout the game, which once you know the speedrun route, it's quite impressive. Even the beginner route, it's very impressive how straightforward you can get through the whole game. And we're skipping like most of the enemies. So with that in mind, it's important to understand this is how RPG speedruns work. And that's not to say you couldn't choose to speedrun and grind, but you just wouldn't be getting a very competitive time. You could absolutely put a timer on and then grind enemies for a couple hours and then go beat the game and not worry about anything. But it also just wastes a lot of time because you're also getting EXP from the bosses in this game. So you're getting, and there's fights that we can't skip that we have to do that we also get EXP from. So it's amazing. You're probably just better off not grinding and going with what the speedrun route wants you to do, in which case obviously this is what we were doing. Throughout this challenge, I did not want to improv in any way, or at least I wanted to try and avoid having to improvise at any point. There are some areas where you might decide to improvise in certain ways because you can't do whatever they're asking you to do, but it doesn't super affect the overall outcome of the game through the XP route or whatever they need you to keep. But even so, I tried to keep that improvisation to a bare minimum because I knew that if I got thrown off because I improv'd earlier, that I knew why that was. Now, with that tangent out of the way, this is exactly why this prologue is difficult. And not even that, but we still have to also get through all of Chapter 1 by preserving our coins and making sure we stay out of these optional battles, which I'm not 100% proficient at, but I did get a lot better at, which is nice. And it just goes to show just a lot of practice went into that. The main big battles in Prologue are, as I mentioned before, the red and blue Goomba battles. There's no action command here, which is the command in which you can time your A button presses to block and also deal extra damage on an attack or extra jumps on your power jumps, which we will get into. So all we're really doing here, pressing A to attack and just sitting back and watching the show take place. After the red and blue Goomba, we will be heading on over to the Goomba King. By the time you get to Goomba King, you can pretty much breathe a sigh of relief because now you have a little bit of a break before the next hurdle. And again, we are trying to preserve all our coins here because the goal by the end of Chapter 1 is to get 50 coins. And the reason why we want to have 50 coins by the end of Chapter 1 is to purchase Speedy Spin at the badge shop. If we choose to avoid collecting Speedy Spin, our run will be about 2 times slower, which stacks up. So you absolutely do not want to skip on collecting the Speedy Spin badge. On the topic of badges, this game, and this run in general, has a huge focus on badges. If you're also a casual player of this game and you enjoy playing the game at length or whatever, you will also probably be a fan of the badge system. The badge system was a way of creating a build for your character that was outside classic leveling up standards. In earlier RPGs, when you would level up, you would get a general scope of all the things that you leveled up, and in some cases they would give you bonus points to put into other places that you wanted to put more focus on. It was less about the build of your characters and more about just getting through the game and being good and smart about how you got through your battles. But Paper Mario does something really interesting. Every time you level up, you get to choose one of 3 things, and only one of those 3 things. Rather than getting a general boost in stats and performance, you can choose either to get more hearts, or get more FP, or get more badge points. That's it. If you choose not to get any more hearts through the entirety of the game, you could actually, theoretically, beat the game at 10 HP. I'm not kidding. This is where the idea of you as a player having a build and developing a build of your character in many different ways comes into play. Paper Mario adds a lot of creativity in how you want to go about your build. In the speedrun, however, we are only going to upgrade our health 1 time, and throughout the entirety of the run, we are going to upgrade mostly our flower points, our FP, and we also will be selectively upgrading our BP to have the perfect speedrun build for us. But badges are an insanely important function of the game. As much as the game wants you to kind of develop your own build, it is proven time and time again that leveling up badges is the most efficient way of getting through the game. There are so many badges in the game, and so many of them offer you so many great bonuses that you can completely annihilate your enemies with. We obviously won't be collecting all the badges in this run, but the badges that we do collect are very key in crafting out our speedrun. Like I said, this isn't a speedrun guide, so I'm not going to be going into one for one where all the badges we need to collect are and what we need and all this stuff. You're better off just looking at the speedrun guide. Links in the description. The way the speedrun is structured is very smart with how you are managing your FP and how you're managing your BP. The average player, I think, casually, will probably do like an upgrade of one of each routinely. Like you'll do one on hearts, and then you'll do one on FP, and then you'll do one on badge points, and you'll sort of just rotate through those. But some players just do all BP, and they just find all the insanely broken badges in this game, and they make an ultimate build of their character. And we will be getting to some interesting badge synergies and gameplay moments later in this video, so stick around for that. Okay, now that we have gone on so many tangents and we're just at the prologue, hopefully the next descriptions of the chapters will be a lot faster and easier to comprehend. After we are done beating Goomba King, we will be heading up to Shooting Star Summit, where we're going to get another set of cutscenes, and it's going to be basically reiterating the fact that we need to find all the 7 star spirits, and we need to get them back together so that we can make our way up to Bowser's Castle / Peach's Castle and finally confront Bowser himself and destroy his invincibility on the Star Rod. It's also here that we finally have access to the action command, which is where we are going to start timing our jumps and timing our defense to be able to stay in the game longer, especially when we get to Bowser, which we will talk about in its own tangent. Now let us begin Chapter 1. Now, Chapter 1 is going to be centered around the Koopa Bros, which are a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles style, I guess, inspired group of Koopas that work for Bowser that are adamant on holding on to the Star Spirit that they are holding hostage right now. And they are not going to let us go in and take it from them without force. The Koopa Bros are held up in this fortress. I'm not going to remember all the exact names of the areas in this game, but just trust. There's a big castle. It's a fortress where the Koopa Bros are hanging out in, and this will be our goal throughout the chapter. Of course, we have to get there first, and in getting there, we're also going to meet our partner, Cooper? It's Cooper, right? I'm literally looking this up. Hold on. I believe it's gotta be Koopa, right? I think Koops was Thousand Year Door. Yes, okay, great. So our first objective in this chapter is obviously to get to the fortress, but in order to get to the fortress, we have to cross this river. In order to cross this river, we're going to need some assistance, and this is where we're going to meet our next partner, Cooper. Cooper has an ability that lets you kick a shell over distances and whatnot, which will be very useful in certain battles and also useful in solving certain puzzles. However, I want to spend time to remind people that we still care about the money that we are collecting. We still care about our coin count. And ideally, we want to leave this fortress with 50 coins. And this can be tricky because there's a lot of battles that are hard to avoid. There's one encounter in particular that's extremely hard to not hit. And it's an area where you see these like 5 coins just sitting there, and it's obvious bait. So when you jump into the coins, then a Koopa is going to jump out of the bushes and ambush you. But you can, if your movement is good, you can get these coins, which is part of the route, by the way, and avoid the Koopa and not have to interact with it. However, if you end up interacting with it, you have to recollect your coins after running away, because you're obviously going to drop all the coins you just picked up. The good news about accidentally entering battles and running away is that you can recollect your coins, but you do have to be super careful about it. Also, throughout this chapter, we are going to be collecting various essential consumable items that will be used for getting through battles just faster. I really am not going to spend too much time on this, as it's kind of obvious that in order to get through a lot of the battles in this game, it's just easier to just, put down a flower and let it rip. But it's worth noting that through this part and through other parts of the run, if I mention having any items in my inventory, it's just assume that we have collected it along the way and I just didn't cover it. Again, not a guide. You should look this up. Don't use this video as a guide on how to speedrun the game. Just use this video as a means to decide whether or not you want to speedrun it. But once we panic our way through this first section, we finally make it to Koopa Village, where we are met with an issue. A bunch of fuzzies have taken over the town, and it's up to us to at least try and help solve the issue. We meet up with Cooper, who exclaims that his shell was stolen by one of the fuzzies, and that if we help get back Cooper's shell, Cooper will also help out getting rid of the fuzzy problem in the main town. So we find the fuzzy with the shell, and we follow it all the way to a tree where the fuzzy tells us that they'll give us back the shell if we beat them in this little game. Now, I recommend saving before doing this section, especially if you're new, because if you mess up this area, then you will be forced to battle outside of the route, and you won't be able to run away from this battle either, so you'll be gaining XP faster than you're supposed to, which again screws up a lot of things. So if you ever mess this up, just reset, go back to the save, and try again. Don't feel bad if you have to save and reset a few times in this run, because it happens, and you can still get a decent time even if you had to do a little bit of resetting. Don't try to first try stuff especially if you're new to this, trust me. So we're going to meet up with this fuzzy, and we're going to play this fuzzy's game, and the game is kind of just like find the fuzzy. The fuzzy is going to jump between a bunch of trees, and you have to figure out which tree the fuzzy is in, and you do this 3 times and you get the shell. It's actually not too hard of a puzzle, but I've screwed it up at least twice. But as long as you are paying attention, you should be okay here. Again, just do a little bit of a safety save beforehand in case things get bad. Now that we've retrieved the shell from the fuzzy, then Cooper is going to come back to us, and we're going to give the shell back, and Cooper will join us on the team. From here, we can actually make our way to the Koopa Bros Fortress, and then we start the first dungeon. So this first dungeon is pretty cut and dry, and the glitchless run, you are doing it basically mostly intended. This is also the dungeon where we're going to meet up with Bombette, and she's going to join our party. Bombette's also going to be an incredibly useful partner in this run, specifically for a future AoE ability that will upgrade her to. Throughout the run, we are going to be encountering some upgrade blocks, and we're going to be upgrading certain party members specifically so that they will have certain movesets coming into later parts of the game. But yeah, not much can be really said about the Koopa Bros Fortress. You are doing it mostly as intended. there's one section where there's these switches and you have to and they'll move a platform out, and then they'll push a wall out, and it's like a little puzzle that you really just slog your way through. However, there are specially timed jumps you can do that are allowed in Glitchless that you can actually jump around them. Although, I don't know how to do these. They're apparently not super hard to learn, but nah. I did not even bother to learn this trick because we have bigger fish to fry, like learning the whole damn speedrun. Another thing that I want to point out, and it's of major importance. I mean, pretty much everything we do get is major importance, but this one takes the cake. This is the dungeon where we're going to get the power bounce, and power bounce is a broken badge. This badge allows us to jump infinitely on an enemy. However, there is an asterisk to that, which we will get into later. But if you time your jumps right, theoretically, again, there's going to be an asterisk with this, you can infinitely jump on an enemy and then kill it outright in one shot. It isn't the only badge that's going to be very, very important in the speedrun, but this badge in particular, you do not want to miss. That being said, we got through the dungeon pretty easily. Again, a lot of this was a little rough to start, but over time, as I practiced more, I became way more efficient at it. But the dungeon itself is definitely not hard, especially from a casual standpoint. It's definitely a point A to point B type of dungeon. Not a lot of puzzling involved here. However, it is still important to note that we are still holding on to our coins, and we do not want to lose these coins because we still need to buy Speedy Spin after chapter 1 is done. So there's still the idea of we're still trying to avoid all the optional battles, and there's one Koopa in the dungeon in particular that is really hard, and I really never fully learned how to manipulate it properly. But there is a key locked up in a cage that only Bombette can blow up on the side from the cracked wall. But when you get there, there's a Koopa blocking the area, sort of. It's patrolling left and right in this area, and as soon as it sees you, it starts targeting you. And the idea is you want to try and bait it in a place where it's going to try and target you, move far enough that you can get out of its bubble, and then you can just blow up the wall and you won't have to interact with it. But I've had so much trouble with this. I always end up running into him almost every time. And afterwards, I have to run away from the battle, pick up all the coins that are falling out of my person, and grab that key. It's a really annoying section, and I'm sure there are better consistent ways of dealing with it. I just didn't really fully learn that. Another section that's worth noting is this bullet bill section, which is kind of like a foreshadowing moment, which, we will see this again, by the way, and we'll get into that. But in this bullet bill section, the goal is just to get from one end to the other and avoid the bullet bills. Again, if we enter any of these battles, we'll have to run away from them and lose coins. So it's insanely important that we do not interact with these bullet bills, because they're going to infinitely shoot bullet bills at us until we kill the launchers. And it's a long stretch here. If you're really proficient at the game, you can definitely speed your way through it using the basic spin move, but I usually end up walking through this mostly and just making sure I just don't touch any of these bullet bills, because I don't want to lose any of my coins. But once we get to the launchers, we're going to take them out all in one foul swoop using some items we collected, Bombette's ability, and a first strike. We're all good to go. And finally, we're going to get to the Koopa Bros, and a lot of these fights up to Bowser is going to be very scripted. We're going to have a set of instructions that will dictate exactly how we are going to get through this boss battle, with some backups in mind for some of these fights. This battle in particular here can be a big indicator of whether or not speedrunning Paper Mario is for you. While it is a very easy battle, it does require a lot of memory if you want to get good at the speedrun. In fact, everything that we're going to do in this run requires a ton of memory. Fun fact, I ended up buying a tablet to do runs of Paper Mario. So I bought this cheap little Amazon Fire 8 tablet with a stand and everything, and I bought it specifically to load PDF files of the route and everything on here, so that when I was doing the run, I could scroll through it and keep it keep on check with everything. And this is not necessarily a bad way of being able to enjoy RPG speedruns. In fact, this is probably the most ideal way of getting into it. I'm sure after you speedrun an RPG enough, you don't need something like this, but when you're at my level, this is actually a pretty good idea. And these types of tablets are really cheap. In fact, you don't even have to get an Amazon Fire. You could get really any cheap tablet that can read PDFs and you're good to go. So like, I do recommend picking up one of these or having a notepad even or something to take notes and keep yourself on track when doing these types of runs. But other than having to follow a specific set of instructions, this boss is super easy, and it doesn't really require that many instructions to get through it. And this can be an issue to some people, because in some types of speedruns, improvisation can be fun. Like when you're playing a platformer, you're doing a platformer speedrun where you're in control of how much damage you're dealing to the enemy and how much you are able to do at a rapid pace. But in RPGs, it's very different. And because it's turn-based, you're going to want to maximize your damage output, and you're going to minimize the amount of time it's going to take to battle these bosses. These bosses, as you'll see, can be beaten very quickly, and if you remember what you're supposed to do in these battles, you can beat these fights in almost a minute or less. This marks the end of Chapter 1, in which we're going to rescue the first Star Spirit, and we're also going to enter a new type of game style, which will be the Peach missions. Now, the Peach missions, that's how I'm titling them, that's probably not what people call them. They are cutaways to Peach in the castle, showing you what's going on in the castle at any given time, and giving you control of Peach as a player character. This is intended to offer players more information on what's going on in the castle, Bowser's plans, and so on and so forth. This first Peach mission here is going to focus on Princess Peach reading Bowser's diary and also finding out where Mario is to be headed next. Shortly after, though, Bowser's going to see Peach reading his diary and get really embarrassed and angry. And from there, we'll be sent back to our room and cutscene will end. For these types of sections in the speedrun, it's more efficient to just make sure we're doing everything on time. There are later Peach missions where stealth is a factor and we don't want to get caught by anyone, and we'll get into those later, but for the most part, these are easy sections of the speedrun. As long as you know where you're supposed to go, then you are pretty much flying through these no problem. After the Peach mission, we are going to be brought back out into the Chapter 1 world, and we are also going to interact with Junior Troopa for the second time. Now, I didn't touch on it too much because the first interaction with Junior Troopa is very free. You're just jumping on his head several times, and that's the fight. However, this is the first time that Junior Troopa is actually going to start powering up. This first battle, though, is very easy, and we can afford to make a few mistakes before getting him down. Once we're out of that, we're going to finally spend our money and purchase Speedy Spin. And you will see, as soon as you equip Speedy Spin as a badge, you go flying around the map. It's way faster this way, and it is a must-have in the speedrun. Do not skip Speedy Spin. Even if you're not a fan of having to retain coins for such a long period of time up to this point, you do not want to miss Speedy Spin. You need to have it in the run. But we're not done on money management yet. We still have to make one more purchase, and that will be a shop in Dry Outpost. So we still need to retain some money moving forward to this next area. Although this next area is a lot easier, so when I get to this point, I'm not as worried about my money than I was during Prologue in Chapter 1. So you definitely are going to get more of a break here. After a long, unskippable cutscene train ride, we are going to make our way to the Dry Desert, where we are going to meet up with Parakarry, who, after a quest of collecting some lost letters, will join our team and will become an MVP in the speedrun. Parakarry is one of the most powerful partners in this game. And I'm honestly genuinely surprised of how powerful Parakarry is. However, right now, Parakarry is just going to help us fly across larger gaps there. We're also going to meet up with this buzzard who was hired by Bowser to search for Mario, and he sees a Mario-looking guy walk across the bridge and says, "Hey, you look like Mario. You Mario?" And I never knew this because I never bothered to experiment. But if you just select Luigi and say, no, I'm Luigi, the buzzer will say, that's good enough, and will let you go free. I always thought you were supposed to battle this guy no matter what, but you can skip this supposedly unskippable battle by just saying that you're Luigi instead of Mario. So that was a very interesting revelation. Anyway, we're gonna make our way through the desert, heading over to the first upgrade block in the Oasis. This is very interesting because when I initially got to this section of the speedrun, I was under the impression that we were supposed to collect the lemon or like the certain fruit things that we need to get there in order to get information from like the mouse guy. But you actually don't need to collect any of that information as long as you know what the secret code is, which I'll explain in just a moment. But anyway, we're only going to go to the Oasis here just to level up. And for those wondering, the dry desert is not a Lost Woods type of map. It's actually a giant grid. So if you know where certain things are on the grid, you can just get there rather than having to follow a specific set of codes like if you are in the Lost Woods in Ocarina of Time. In this particular case here, you just need to know where you need to be, and you can find it on this giant grid. Otherwise, we're going to make our way to the dry outpost, and we're going to head to the shop for our final shop purchases. After these, money doesn't matter, and accidental battles are just time loss at this point. Here we are going to purchase a dried shroom and a dusty hammer in this particular order. The reason why we purchase these items in that order is because that is the secret code. It's a secret code that we learn by collecting certain fruits from the Oasis and tempt the mouse guy with them. But if we already know the secret code, then the game just assumes we already got that information and we can progress the game. Having done the secret code, we're also going to purchase 3 lightning bolts on our way out the door, and that will be it for the shop. Having done the secret code properly, we'll be invited to meet with the mysterious mouse guy. I think I forget his name, Mustadio or something, which he'll be present on the rooftops. He will then give you a stone that will help you find the chapter 2 dungeon. The stone also has a pulse on it, which helps you locate the pedestal that we're going to put the stone on. However, if you know where the dungeon is, the pulse of the stone doesn't matter. From here, we can breathe a sigh of relief because money does not matter anymore in the run. What does matter, though, is collecting our life shrooms. Throughout the run, we are going to be collecting a series of life shrooms, and the reason why we want to be ensuring that we're finding these life shrooms is because they are incredibly essential to beating Final Bowser. For first-timers in the game, you need to have at least 3 life shrooms if you want to effectively kill Bowser at a more consistent manner. I think more expert players can get Bowser done in 2 life shrooms, but for the sake of learning this type of speedrun, just assume you need to have 3 life shrooms. We'll be collecting way more than that, and these ones will be used as backups. However, you can just bring them into Bowser as extra. And the reason why it's important that we find these life shrooms in the wild is because they're just really expensive. If you go to a shop that sells life shrooms, they're going to sell them for a very high price, typically in the 50 coin range. That's money we just can't afford to spend. So with that out of the way, I'm not going to tell you where all the life shrooms are. Again, that's listed in the run and the route. But I just want to make a point here that collecting life shrooms are insanely important in the speedrun, and making sure that we have at least 3 for Bowser is also of the utmost importance as a beginner speedrunner. Now then, we're going to make our way to the chapter 2 dungeon, and then we're going to get that one started. This dungeon is a lot more puzzly, but it's still on the simpler end of the dungeons. In fact, I would be willing to say most of the dungeons here aren't horrible or hard to figure out. I think the Ice Palace is probably the hardest puzzle-wise, but otherwise, you won't really have a major issue navigating any of these dungeons. The main hurdle with this particular dungeon was the boss itself. Now, this boss was the first boss in which I could potentially game over due to ill-timed jumps. Even to this day, I still save there just in case I die because I'm bad at the game. Now, we can get the boss killed in about 3 turns. However, the timing of our jumps does matter a lot here. When we're performing a power jump on the boss, we need to time our action command so that we are dealing that extra bit of damage with a power jump. because those 1 to 2 hit points matter. What I ended up learning throughout this fight is that if we miss one timing on the power jump, we will have to block at least one of the attacks coming through. But we can still make it out. Although, one of the attacks are really hard to block, at least for me. It can be hard for me to block certain attacks, so there's that. Otherwise, if you can time all your jumps properly, you won't need to block a single attack, because Toot and Koopa won't be able to kill you soon enough. Anyway, if you get enough practice through this fight, you'll get through it. But I just want to make a point about this particular fight here of being rather on the difficult side for me. But regardless, you'll get through it eventually, no problems, no questions asked, and otherwise, pretty simple dungeon. I actually really like the dungeon sections of the speedrun, because a lot of it is just kind of going through off your memory of the dungeon, and it's kind of like a fun little ride to kind of whisk through these sections. The dungeons are very vibrant and colorful, and they really add a lot to the game, and I have a lot of fun just kind of blitzing through them. Anyway, we're going to finish Chapter 2, we're going to rescue another Star Spirit, and we will be welcomed with another Peach mission. This Peach mission in particular is going to have us participate in our first stealth section of the game. In this section, we are going to be entering the library of the castle. But first, we're going to have to escape our little prison cell and sneak out to head to the library. And while we're in the main hall, there are a bunch of enemies with flashlights ready to track us down. So in Metal Gear Solid fashion, we're going to sneak our way to the next room. And inside the library, our stealth mission does not end there. We still have to get past some patrolling enemies in the area. But from here, we're going to overhear a conversation about the Forever Forest and the next Star Spirit, which will be the next area that we need to go to. It's worth noting that these Peach missions are the missions in which Peach will get information on where Mario needs to go next. Give that information to Twink, her little star buddy, and Twink will leave the castle and inform Mario on the next part of our adventure. After we successfully make it through the library sequence, we will be brought back into the game where we will make our way to Forever Forest. Now, Forever Forest is most definitely a Lost Woods section. Inside Forever Forest is a circular room with many doors, but only one of the doors will progress you throughout the stage. Should you take a wrong door, you'll be pooped back to the beginning of Forever Forest, much like how the Lost Woods interacts with the player. However, much like the Lost Woods, there's no randomization involved, and there's one specific route you can always take. I had to write this route down because there ain't no way I was going to memorize this right away, so to this day, I still have the Forever Forest route in my PDF notes. And whenever I get to Forever Forest, I make sure that I'm on that page so I can absolutely take a look at that. Anyway, after we get out of Forever Forest, we're going to be entering the next section, which will be the Boo Mansion. It is here where, after doing a series of tasks, two of which are this annoying Boo game where in order for us to get certain items and certain key things to progress through this section, you have to try and track down the Boo that is holding the item through like a circle of Boos. Kind of like the Find the Shell minigame in this sort of sense. I've messed up this section quite a few times. As long as you are closely paying attention to the Boo that's holding the key item, you shouldn't have too much of a problem tracking it down. I just kept looking at the wrong Boo for one of my attempts, and I kept not knowing why I was wrong. Otherwise, there's no enemies in this whole mansion, so you're really just going through the motions here. It's like a mini dungeon, really. And once we make our way to the top of this mansion, we're going to meet up with Bo, who is holding the Star Spirit hostage and saying, hey, we've got the Star Spirit, but you need to help me first before I can give you the Star Spirit, which is kind of weird. And so Bo just joins our team. We don't really have a choice, but Bo takes us under her wing, which is fine because Bo is pretty useful. We're going to then venture out with Bo to the next area of the chapter. This is going to reveal that Tubba Blubba, a giant boss that was appointed by Bowser to hold on to the Star Spirit, is currently eating all the booze in the area as sustenance. Bo explains to Mario that he needs to deal with Tubba Blubba, or else she will keep losing more of her boo brethren to the endless hunger of Tubba Blubba. He has a giant bandage on where his heart is, and if you engage with him in battle at any point during this next section, he will be invincible throughout. You will not be able to deal any damage. It's later revealed that Tubba Blubba took his heart out and put it inside a well, so that the only way to actually kill Tubba Blubba is to kill Tubba Blubba's heart. Regardless, I'm touching on this now because it's not in the speedrun. It's not something that like you're really going to notice too much unless you already know the lore. So I'm just gonna say that now. Otherwise, Bo is going to show us her newfound power of out of sight, which will allow us to be invisible to enemies around us and our surroundings, and we'll use her a few times, but for the most part we'll not really need to use out of sight. We'll make our way through a track of several enemies. This can be a very dangerous section because it's very easy to get got here. We also don't want to take any damage moving up to this next area, and enemies that first strike can be a very big problem. When you're managing your health and an enemy first strikes you, it throws off what you need to do with your health and how you're going to manage the health moving forward. There's also no heart block at the beginning of Tubba Blubba's castle, so when we are entering this next section, we're coming in with full health, and we need to get to Tubba Blubba's castle with full health. I can tell you a few times I was first striked and I had to run all the way back to heal because this is how it goes. We're gonna get through Tubba Blubba's castle, mostly intended as in glitchless. There's not much we can do to kind of cheese it. However, we are going to set up a crazy set of gameplay moving forward. But before we do, we need to get ourselves to 1 HP. You probably know where I'm getting at with this. But the reason why we are coming in with full HP is because it allows us to get at exactly 1 HP perfectly for what we're about to do next. We're going to walk up to an enemy and we are going to let them hit us a bunch of times until we hit 1 HP, in which case we'll then run away from the battle. And then we are going to get ourselves the badge Mega Rush. Mega Rush is an insanely broken badge in Paper Mario that gives you so much damage at the expense of having 1 HP. When we are at 1 HP, we are considered in peril, and therefore it does turn on the Mega Rush badge, giving us an insane attack boost on all fronts. And if you're wondering if you were allowed to be at 2 or 3 health or 4 or 5, while we are considered in danger at 5 or less health, it does not turn on Mega Rush. You absolutely need to be at 1 HP, and that's it. This is also a big turning point for anyone learning the speedrun to Paper Mario, whether or not they really want to continue doing this, because Mega Rush can be very scary. That being said, the way the route guides you through it is pretty nice, and it's not as bad as you might think on the surface in terms of having to deal with doing a Mega Rush build. Like it or not, Mega Rush is so broken that it is sincerely the best way to actually get through most of the bosses in this game. You remove Mega Rush and the boss fights become way longer than they really need to be. Combine Mega Rush with Power Bounce, where I mentioned earlier being able to bounce infinitely, but being able to bounce infinitely on enemy and having Mega Rush turned on deals an insane amount of damage on the front end. So with that knowledge going in, this is how we are going to beat Tubba Blubba at the end of this chapter. Like I said, other than that, the dungeon is very cut and dry, pretty simple to get through. One area of note though, there is this long stretch of hallway where there's stationed little alien UFO things are hovering around, and if they see you and they spot you, they will track you down and try to pick you up. And when they pick you up, they'll send you out of the dungeon. You have to go back in and do it all again. In this particular hallway, though, you actually can skip this set of aliens, because once you leave the patrol trigger for the alien will just move back to their post and not follow you the whole way through. And with very good movement and hops, you can get through this easily. However, it is recommended that you have bow with you during this particular stretch, because in case you're not fast enough, you can quickly use bow's out of sight ability to make yourself invisible, and the UFO will just not be able to track you and will move back to its post. I've actually gotten this a lot more times than I thought I would, to be honest. I would get Bo into my party, get to this area, and then just pass the UFOs anyway, no problem. So yeah, it doesn't seem as bad as I thought it was going to be. Anyway, once we get the key to the windmill in which Double Blubba's heart is currently in hiding there, again, we are still at 1 HP here. And it's very important that we continue holding on to that 1 HP for several parts of this run. This stretch heading back to the windmill is pretty brutal too, because there's, again, a lot of first striking enemies that can just outright kill you as a result of this. And even if they use a life shroom as a backup, you're now at 10 HP and you now have to get yourself down to 1 HP again, which is harder to do without just resetting and trying again. So make sure you save frequently until you're comfortable with these areas. Otherwise, we're going to make our way to Double Blubba's heart, and this is going to be the first moment where we're going to do a major badge menuing change. And this, I was never really too good at these parts, because I always forgot which badges we were supposed to unequip and then re-equip. So they were always a little bit tricky to be like, okay, unequip this, equip that, blah, 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 blah. In essence, though, if you know the general gist of what you need to have equipped, you just have to kind of think of it that way. And I think for me, I was just always thinking about the things I need to unequip first over what I need just equipped. An easier way to navigate this type of menuing, although it does lose you time, is to just unequip everything and then equip the things that you know you need for this fight. Anyway, we absolutely are going to need Mega Rush, and we absolutely are going to need Power Bounce. We can beat this boss in 2 turns. Technically 3, because we do another boss fight, but like, let's pretend that we're just focusing on the heart for example. We have only 2 turns to beat this heart because we are at 1 HP. We do not want to die, and we do not want to lose Mega Rush to a backup life shroom. This is when the speedrun routers also introduced the idea of Power Bounce capped jumps. The speedrun route actually illustrates how many jumps you need to get per turn with your Power Bounce. Now, very interesting, albeit annoying part of Power Bouncing is the fact that sometimes the game will decide that you don't get to Power Bounce anymore. I recommend actually practicing your Power Bouncing before kind of getting into this run. Just finding a save point in a battle and just practicing your power jumps and just practicing your Power Bounces and your timings to make sure you can always at least hit that 4. If you're hitting 3 or less, you definitely need to practice it more. I don't recommend this speedrun if you're not willing to practice Power Bouncing, because you really do want to get good at these types of bounces. We have to at least hit the heart 8 times total as a Power Bounce with Mega Rush. Regardless, that will easily end the fight super fast, and the heart's going to run away before it actually fully dies, and it's going to hop back into Double Blubba, in which case we will actually be able to properly attack Double Blubba. Now, this fight is absolutely pathetic. All you need to do is a timed jump. You don't need to do any special FP stuff. You don't need to do Power Bounce or a Power Jump. You just need to jump and time it. And if you miss the time, just use Paragary as a backup, because Paragary deals massive damage with that shell shot. And with that, Chapter 3 is out of the way. And now it's, of course, time for another Peach mission. And this Peach mission, this one's going to be really short. Basically, Bowser's going to confront Peach and ask what things is Mario afraid of, in which case we're going to selectively pick 2 of the 3 options in order to help us through Shy Guy's Toy Box. We're going to tell Bowser that Mario's afraid of mushrooms and Mario's afraid of lightning strikes. And then we're going to tell Bowser that Mario's afraid of Pokies because it's faster, because we're not going to ever interact with that part of Shy Guy's Toy Box. Bowser takes notes and they immediately get to work on that. Otherwise, we will regain control of our character and make our way out of Forever Forest. However, this is where we get to encounter one of the hardest fights in the game. And that fight is the next Junior Troopa fight. Upon trying to leave Forever Forest, Junior Troopa is going to encounter you once again to re-battle you, and this fight is no joke. You definitely want to save before here, because even with everything lined up, you are still going to have to get good power jumps. This is one of those fights where power bounce is insanely important, and you're going to need to get 5 power bounces in on this enemy in order to destroy it. On average, it takes me 2 to 3 resets to beat this part, and you're hitting this enemy with intricacies, which is very annoying. This fight is made all the more harder because we need to also get ourselves into the Mega Rush state while also in the fight. This is not uncommon to many of the other fights in the game, where you will have to block a certain number of attacks in order to get yourself to 1 HP. In this case, we need to block 1 of his 2 attacks, and that will put us to 1, and then we Mega Rush for 5 bounces in order to seal the deal. This fight is brutal, and you might spend a few times grinding out this fight. Don't feel bad though. This fight is hard. It's no joke. All right. But if you successfully get past this fight, you'll be out of Chapter 2 and on your way to Shy Guy's Toy Box. Shy Guy's Toy Box is one of these interesting little chapters where there's not really a dungeon, it's just a set of tasks they'll want you to do. And it won't be the first time we'll be in a chapter in which that's going to be the case. The general gist of Shy Guy's Toy Box is that a bunch of Shy Guys are stealing stuff in Toad Town, and it's our job to find out what's going on. Upon further inspection too, we are also notified that there's a Star Spirit somewhere in Toad Town, but we don't know where. It's later revealed that the Shy Guys have it hidden inside their toy box. It's our job to sneak on into the toy box and root out whatever's going on there and save the Star Spirit that is currently being held there. A lot of people really like Shy Guy's Toy Box, and it might be just how it functions and how it looks and aesthetically. It's alright to me. I think it's kind of cool, but I don't necessarily think this is the most fun I've ever had in a chapter. It's also a chapter where we're going to get our next partner, which will be Watt. And Watt is going to be used a few times, but for the most part, Watt is generally not going to be a main focus for our leveling up and our partner management. But in this particular chapter, Watt will be pretty useful. Again, this fight is all about performing a series of tasks in order to get ourselves to the main bosses. There are 2 bosses in Shy Guy's Toy Box. There's the Lantern Ghost, which is where we will unlock Watt, and then there's a General Guy, which is the main boss of the chapter. And remember when I mentioned that Bowser was asking Peach what Mario was afraid of? Well, if we get Bowser, if we say Mushroom and Lightning Strike, then Bowser will actually just hand deliver these items to us. Or rather, Cammy Koopa will hand deliver these items in these particular areas of Shy Guy's Toy Box that we are supposed to go into. It's kind of a little funny thing, we're just getting free items from them. However, the mushroom is actually used right away in order to keep us from getting killed. See, there's these Shy Guys on these balloons, and they can first strike you really easily. They can snipe you so easily. And if you get into a battle with them, even when you're trying to run away, they will still get a shot out of you, and it will be 3 damage per shot. The run suggests once you pick up this first mushroom to just eat it right away, since we will be at peril. However, we don't need to be at peril till Lantern Ghost, and Lantern Ghost will also be able to enable us to get into peril way easier than just us trying to manage it with the enemies in the area. Even in the speedrun itself, they mention these balloon guys, and they also say sorry. Pretty much insinuating that sometimes you're just going to get hit by a first strike balloon guy, and it feels kind of out of your control. You're doing Shy Guys Toy Box pretty much the intended way that you're supposed to do it, maybe with just a couple of shortcuts, but for the most part, you are going to be just flying through Shy Guys Toy Box the way you're supposed to. Will then need to battle with Lantern Ghost and General Guy. Lantern Guy can be pretty easy, and also comes with a backup, which is very nice. You see, first we have to get ourselves into peril by first blocking one of Lantern Ghost's 2 attacks. Once we're in peril, we need to actually get 5 bounces on him. The speedrun route adds if you were capped at 4, there are backups to getting through Lantern Ghost. That being said, the ideal fight will leave us still with 1 HP and no problem. However, if we leave the fight having used a life shroom and got ourselves back up to full HP, there is also a setup in General Guy which will allow us to get back down to 1 HP to get the fight going. While a little bit slower, it is a backup, and sometimes you're not going to get the 5 bounce on the power bounce. I really like that they added a backup here. I think my main criticism is I kind of wish that Junior Troopa had also a better backup than just not having one at all. At least we can say Lantern Ghost is a point in which you are allowed to use the life stream and it won't majorly affect the run. General Guy is also pretty easy, but also requires some good timed bounces, but no bounces that require you to hit for 5 at least. But you still need to make sure you practice your power bounces so you're hitting that 4 bounce. Watt is also going to be the main player here for us, providing some really good navigation through an otherwise pretty long fight in essence. Casually, the General Guy fight is just really long, but here you get through it pretty nice, and as long as you follow the instructions, you're good to go. I never had really any major issues with navigating Shy Guys Toy Box besides the first striking balloon guys that were a pain in the ass. But once we rescue the next Star Spirit, it is time for another Peach mission. This Peach mission is what people like to call the infamous Cake mission, which is probably one of the most time-consuming sections of the speedrun. It also involves a combination of stealth and navigating around the flashlight enemies. In this particular mission, Peach is going to interact with the Gourmet Guy, which is a character we also met in Shy Guys Toy Box briefly, and gave them a piece of cake so they would unblock a particular pathway. Peach interacts with them in the castle, and they also mention that they also want cake. So Peach sets out to the royal kitchen to bake a cake. A lot of people hate this mission because it's just really time consuming and it just takes forever. In the royal kitchen, you have to bake a cake in a certain way. Twink reads a recipe book for you and says, okay, first we need these ingredients, and then we're going to mix, and then we're going to get these ingredients, and then we're going to bake. As long as you know what you're supposed to do, you're pretty much just following the instructions one for one. Also, it's important to know when you're baking the cake, Twink says you needs to bake for at least 30 seconds. However, according to the speedrun, you only need to bake it for 23 seconds. They had actually timed it. So I usually take out my iPhone timer and I will just have it set, and then when it hits 23, I'll just take the cake out. And then we're just gonna ice the cake, put some strawberries on it, and give it to Gourmet Guy. As long as we assemble the ingredients in the proper order and bake the cake for 23 seconds, Gourmet Guy will always love it. And with that, we will conclude this Peach mission. Alright, next up, we're heading on our way to Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is the Lava Island chapter, where we're going to be traveling with Colorado in search of treasure. We are also tipped off about the location of the next Star Spirit, so that's going to be our next destination. One long, unskippable whale riding cutscene across the water, which includes a chonky seagull. We make it to Lava Island in one piece. What's really funny about this is you're supposed to be with Colorado throughout the point. You're supposed to interact with Colorado throughout the course of this area. However, you can actually just avoid Colorado completely, having only really needing to talk to him one time to set off the next set of flags in the game. For the most part, we're really just trying to avoid the guy more than we are trying to work with him. In this mission, we are going to meet up with Sushi, the fish. This partner we're pretty much only going to use for its ability on the map, but otherwise in battle, Sushi will never be used in this run. During our predicament to try and figure out how we are going to get to Lava Lava Island, all the baby Yoshis in Yoshi Village have run away and hot hid somewhere in the next area. Before we can even get to the caves of Lava Lava Island, we will need to find these Yoshis first, and this is when we will meet up with Sushi. Sushi's ability allows us to travel over water through these little wooden dock sections, and is pretty slow in the water. This section, not surprisingly, is going to be done pretty much intended as you would casually. You're just finding all the Yoshis around the map and getting through the area efficiently. There are a few places of note that are kind of tricky here. Running away from a spear guy is really tricky in these types of areas. For some reason, the runaway rate is so much harder to hit than it would be just on a general regular enemy. And some of these spear guys are in such good locations to snipe you. One location in particular requires us to open a set of leaves and then go into a pipe where we'll find the next Yoshi that we'll uncover using watt. But before we even get into that pipe, we still have to open up the leaves, and there's this spear guy just patrolling this area completely. And we really don't want to interact with the spear guy because we have a chance of not running away from the battle, which would pretty much prompt me to reset the run here. Because throughout this section, we do want to stay at peril, because there are some battles we are going to have to interact with, and we want to ensure that we are using our Mega Rush to its full extent. Outside of that though, enough practice to this area, you'll be fine. It's really just some of the spear guys are really annoying. And there is also like a little section where they recommend for beginners to actually get into an optional battle with one of the little like cattail enemies, and because they're easy to run away from, you'll get these invincibility frames after you run away from battle, which would let you get past this little narrow wooden log bridge segment of the forest. Either way, however you get through navigating, as long as you get all the Yoshis and you stay at peril and you don't take any damage, you're good. After we rescue the Yoshis, we'll be given the Jade statue, which will allow us to progress further into the forest and which will bring us closer to the caves of Lava Lava Island. This next section is really just kind of a bunch of little puzzly things. The main big puzzle here is that water spout puzzle where you need to plug up certain holes in order to explode the rock that's blocking the way. Otherwise, pretty easy section to get through. We're gonna meet up with this giant chonky bird with, damn, look at those feet though! And they're going to guide us over to the caves, and we will make our way to the next dungeon. This dungeon is incredibly short, and you'll get through it really fast. Just like the other dungeons, we are pretty much moving through this as intended. It's very simple to get through. We're not doing really any exploring in a lot of these dungeons, so this dungeon in particular is really meant for the player to explore more and find some hidden secrets and stuff. But when you avoid all that, you're actually just left with a really short dungeon that it's like it's already ended by the time it begins. Regardless though, the boss of this dungeon is a doozy. This is a longer fight, and if done incorrectly, you will not win it. But of course, I'm talking about the Lava Piranha, which requires a minimum of 4 power bounces, which again, like I mentioned before, you really need to practice these power bounces because you always want to make sure you're hitting that 4 as consistent as possible. Not only that, but they recommend you try to get 6 hits on the second phase of Lava Piranha, although there are backups in case you miss that. That being said, with enough practice, you can get through Lava Piranha no problem. It really is just a matter of getting good at these bounces. Not only that though, but you also need to get yourself to peril by the time you enter this fight. Rather than starting the fight with peril, you will actually have to start it at full health and take advantage of its attacks to get you down to 1 HP. Which means, once again, we need to block one of 2 attacks. And the attack that's going to throw at us is a fireball-like attack. This attack is so hard for me to read when I need to do the action command to block, and even to this day, I don't think I've fully understood it. On average, it takes me about 3 tries to get through this boss, which is a major time loss on all fronts. If I were to do a run, I would love to get through this fight on the first try. That being said, with enough practice, you can get through it, no problem. As long as you follow the instructions and you get them done, you are good. But with that boss out of the way, we will make our grand escape from the caves, which is actually a volcano, an active volcano, and we are going to escape before it erupts, in which we will make our way to another Peach mission. So this next Peach mission, Peach is going to make her way to another room of the castle where she's going to be greeted by a Hammer Bros that wants to put on a quiz show for her and their peers. The only speedrun goal here is to just be the first to buzz in on any question, and it doesn't matter if you get it wrong, it's just going to speed up the section, obviously. This is a pretty quick one, and there's not much else to say about this mission other than that. Story-wise, it's kind of funny, but yeah, that's really it for that. After another unskippable whale ride cutscene, we're also going to be meeting with another Junior Troopa battle, and this Junior Troopa battle is not as bad as the Forever Forest one. This one is pretty doable as long as you are equipped with Spike Shield, which will allow us to jump on his spiked head. You can get through this even if you make a few mistakes. And with that, we are going to be off to Chapter 6. Now, before we even get into Chapter 6, I haven't explained it, but we are supposed to have collected a bunch of these magic seeds throughout the game. And these magic seeds are given to us by these little flower sprout looking people that will appear around the map at large. And these flower sprout people can be found in Toad Town, Dry Desert, Forever Forest, and Lava Island. And the way we get these is pretty simple. We're going to just talk to the flower guy and they're just going to give us the seed. However, in Lava Island, you actually get the seed in a different way. As I mentioned earlier, Colorado is interested in finding a big treasure on Lava Island, and because the volcano erupted with the treasure's lost to time, sort of. Colorado gets really sad and tries to find any means of treasure available and ends up talking to the flower sprout and taking the magical seed from them instead. However, if we go back into the area where we found Sushi, we'll see where the treasure box is and we'll get the treasure from it and exchange it for the magical seed with Colorado. I'm pretty sure you can get this magical seed early if you want. However, apparently you can just get it from Colorado because of these conditions. Otherwise, if we get all 4 of these magical seeds, we will have access to the door that leads to Chapter 6, which is this suspicious looking garden you probably have noticed throughout moving through Toad Town. And Chapter 6 is a doozy. This chapter is... This chapter sucks. I honestly... So this chapter plops you onto a central map with a bunch of different passageways, and our goal is to perform a bunch of fetch quests for various flower people around the map. The main goal being we are trying to get the sun to shine again because the entire area is covered in cloud due to a weather machine planted there by Bowser's minions. Seems simple, but man, do they overcomplicate this area way too much. The speedrun at least definitely simplifies it as much as it can, but it is just a really long, arduous amount of tasks you have to do. I'm not really going to go into much detail, and I think it's worth looking up yourself, but the general gist is we're going to go to one area, we're going to get a berry from a tree, we're also going to solve a problem or accept a quest from a flower person, then head to another area in which we are going to interact for the quest and grab another berry from a tree. And these berries are going to be used to gain access to other areas from other plants that are hungry for specific colored berries. And then you're going to go in there, and then you're going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then eventually you get to the end. This is also the area where we will be getting Lackey Lester as our partner. We'll also be engaging in a battle with him, which does have some backups attached to it. So don't feel too worried about getting this fight done right. However, you know, definitely make sure you back up, save at all times in these sort of runs. And then once we get laggy Lester, we will make our way to the weather machine, destroy the weather machine, the sun will be able to shine bright again, and the area will be done. The only thing left to do will be to deal with the menacing clouds in the sky, which will be our boss. I believe the boss is named Huff and Puff or something. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's the boss. Cloud Man. That's the boss. Before we even get to the fight, we're also going to pick up a badge called Super Jump Charge, and this combined with Mega Rush turns your power bounce into a goddamn killing machine. Essentially what Super Jump Charge does is it gives you a attack boost every turn you use it. So every time you use Super Jump Charge, your attack on your jump gets bigger and bigger. So if you imagine doing Super Jump Charge 3 turns in a row, then the next time you were to jump on an enemy's head, you would absolutely decimate it. And this is made very, very evident in this particular boss battle. I'll show footage here, but it is insane the amount of damage you will deal when you combine your Mega Rush with Super Jump Charge. Ideally, the game... I don't even think the devs really intended you to be this powerful, but yet the badges, man, they're really good. Otherwise, this fight is actually a pretty easy fight. It's hard to screw up, and although the game recommends you block a certain number of attacks, you also can avoid having to block altogether as long as you do the correct math with his wind blowing attack. So as long as your power bounces are still good, as long as you're still getting those consistent power bounces, you're not messing those up, you are good to go. And another Star Spirit is saved. Moving on, we're going to be introduced to the final Peach mission of the game, which will be Peach using the umbrella that she got from the quiz show earlier. Forgot to mention that. But this umbrella lets her take the form of anyone she shoots the umbrella at. So she makes herself look like a guard to open up access to the top floor area. In fact, she has to make herself look like 2 types of guards in order to get the access that she needs. Once she's at the top, she will be found out and taken away. And that's the last time we will actually have control over Peach. Heading on back to our character, we are going to make our way to the ice snow area. I always forget what the name of the snow area is. Also, this is a very interesting point. It is so paramount that you go inside Merlin's house before moving on with the game. Otherwise, you will not be able to have access to the Chapter 7 area. Literally, this cutscene unlocks the door. So make sure after you're back in control of your character and you're back in Toad Town to go into Merlin's house. Go to Merlin's house first. Anyway, we're going to make our way into the sewers, which is how we're going to access the pipe that's going to take us to the Chapter 7 area. In this area, we're going to encounter a blooper fight, which is very easy. They recommend we block a certain amount of attacks from them, but it's not going to actually kill us or ruin the run in any way. The reason why they want us to have as much health going in is this ungodly, horrible section over here in the sewers. So basically, there's a really claustrophobic part in the sewers that we need to access, and this is also in order for us to get the Ultra Boots for the final upgrade of our jump attack, which we have been slowly upgrading over time. As such, this little like zigzag section with these spiky dudes that will first strike you at 3 damage each time they first strike is ridiculous. And if you don't have enough health going in, you can just like die here and you have to restart. That being said, I have a good strat that they never mention in the guide, and I guess that's because they assume that you'll be fine moving in here. And I also want to mention that I didn't watch the full JCog video breakdown of these sections, so I can only assume that JCog has also given better advice there than what is written in the document. But one way I came up with myself is if we have Bo in our party, we can equip Bo to us, and then whenever we're in a section that they're about to first strike us, we can just use out of sight with Bo to confuse the enemy and get the enemy to move away. And also, if the going gets tough, rather than getting the enemy to first strike us, we can just enter the battle on our own right by just holding on to out of sight, letting the enemy hover over us, and then when we get out of sight, we'll just enter the battle without a first strike. Another way you can get into this is try and hammer the spiky dude first, or you can go to your badges and put the spike shield on temporarily just so you can like jump on them even. There's multiple ways you could navigate this. I personally went down the bow route, but you could improvise here. I'm sure JCog has a better way of doing this. I'm just going off of what I decided I would do with this. Otherwise, the rest of the sewer is pretty simple. We're just going to make our way into Chapter 7 and get that started. Now, Chapter 7 has a really cute little murder mystery section where the mayor is supposedly murdered. We get accused of it, and it's our job to clear our name and find out what really happened, where really the truth is the mayor is actually not dead and was sort of just passed out for a little while. Anyway, once everything is good to go, we will be allowed to leave and venture off towards the next dungeon. This is where we're going to encounter another junior trooper fight, where it also is going to be a little bit of a tricky one. Not as tricky as the Forever Forest one, but it can still mess with you, so I always save here beforehand because it is very important that we are ready to go for this fight. This is also an important point where our power bounces are going to now be different due to the fact that we have Ultra Boots. So because we have Ultra Boots, our jumps are now going to look way different, and the timing is going to be slightly different too. And it can be very hard for people to go from one power bounce to the next, and there's really no way of us changing that, and you can't really get rid of your Ultra Boots once you have it. But once again, with practice, you can get through this junior trooper fight no problem. And once you do, we will be making our way to the other end of the area. Our goal is to collect a scarf and a bucket. And once we get those items, we are able to dress the suspiciously placed snowmen in the middle section of the area, which will give us passage to the next section towards the dungeon. On one end of the map, we're going to get the scarf, and then the mayor is going to give us the bucket once we head all the way back, and then boom, it's pretty simple. Not much left to report here, otherwise you're just kind of going through the motions as you normally would in the game. Once we get the items, we'll dress up the snowman, and then boom, we got access. Now this is when the game gets really annoying for me. Up to this point, we actually upgraded Lackey Lester quite a bit. And the reason is we need to fully upgrade Lackey Lester so that they have the final full ability, which is Hurricane. Hurricane is an ability that, if pulled off properly, will blow away all enemies on the screen, ending the battle. You don't get any EXP from this, but the enemy doesn't respawn, so it's almost like you're ending battles for free. The major caveat to Hurricane is having to press this is really annoying, two buttons at the same time. You have to press B and A, you have to tap B and A, like I don't know how to explain. I seriously don't know how more I can explain how hard this is on the hands. Rather than just mashing one button to pull it off, they wanted to make it harder for you to successfully do Hurricane because of how powerful of an ability it is. And I get that, but I just don't like, oh man, I hate that design choice. Like you're literally like, I literally had to like figure out ways I could do this without like putting too much strain on my hand. I mean, obviously I'm using a kind of a weirder controller for this, but like still, even on the original N64 controller, you would still have trouble with Hurricane. Absolutely not a fun move to do. And in this next section of battles, we're going to be using Hurricane as a means to get out of these battles. Essentially, there's a lot of unskippable battles that we can't really run away from. We actually have to confront these, and it would mess up the EXP route to just get through all these battles. Also, it'd just be way slower. So like, I get why Hurricane is a main feature of this run moving forward, but it is so annoying and so hard on the hands. Once we get to that point, I'm like, all right, I'm literally like shaking the hands during cutscenes, getting ready to go, because I'm like, okay, I have to do this. You ideally want to hit 100% on the Hurricane. Sometimes you don't, and you'll still be able to pull it off. It just basically, the more the green bar moves up, the higher the chance of Hurricane being successful will happen. And then obviously when you hit 100%, you enter that 100% success rate. And yeah, this section and some sections after are littered with them. Every battle that we have to battle that are susceptible to Hurricane is just use Hurricane. And it's like, oh my god. Oh, I hate that design, man. And as much as I'd like to say, you know, with enough practice, you can get Hurricane, and that's true. With enough practice, you can pull off a successful Hurricane with Lucky Lester. But also, please watch out for your hands. Like, if your hands are actually really strained from doing the speedrun, I would probably recommend not doing the speedrun or finding an alternative way to not have to use Hurricane. Just make sure we're taking care of our hands here, people, because, like, oh my god. Woo! Anyway, throughout this next section, we're going to be interacting with what is known as the Duplighost, and the Duplighost is just a type of enemy that can shapeshift into anything it wants to shapeshift into. Mainly as a means to troll and throw us off of our trail. And this also comes into play when we enter the actual dungeon, which will be the Ice Palace. The Ice Palace is probably the hardest dungeon on a puzzle level, especially casually. It's a little tricky to fully understand right away what you need to do. But if you do know what you need to do in that dungeon, it's really fun to like get through it and be like, yeah, I know how to do this. I know what I need to do. But it is like it is meant to be like a mind blow, sort of like mess with your head sort of dungeon. And it's actually really cool in that aspect. Functionally, it's a really neat dungeon. I'm really glad it exists, and casually, it's a fun time to like kind of pace yourself through and whatnot. And again, it's not without its Duplighost fights, and also there is a set of fights from these clubbas as well that we want a Hurricane out of. Just so many Hurricanes. Why? Anyway, if you make it all the way to the end, you'll be battling it off with the Ice King, and the Ice King is another tricky little fight. Essentially, we're going to start the fight with full health, which means we need to get to peril. In order to get to peril, we'll need the Ice King to hit us. However, the Ice King has a very tough to beat attack where they are going to summon these little like ice spirits around them. Then the Ice King is going to suck the ice spirits into its mouth and spit it out at us at a machine gun sort of rate, where it's just like boom, boom, boom. In which case, we need to block one of these 3 shots in order to make ourselves get to peril. And these are hard to block. I honestly have trouble still with Ice King, but again, I'm going to say with enough practice, you'll get through it. But it is a very tricky fight and something to look out for. When he's about to do that attack, just be prepared. Get that action command ready. Sometimes I have to like squint at the screen and be like, okay, I'm waiting for it. It's a kind of a shitty rule of thumb in terms of blocking these types of attacks, is the idea of just waiting for the sprite of the thing that's attacking Mario to be as close to Mario as possible within like a matter of like tens of pixels, which again doesn't help much because our reaction time is generally going to play a role in all this, and our also, as we grow older, our reaction time just gets worse. Also, fun fact, the Ice King might have a spiky crown, but actually that doesn't count as a spike. So you don't need Spike Shield to actually navigate Ice King, which was something I just never knew for a long time because it just looked like his spiky crown counted as a spike. Regardless, once you get past Ice King, then we're moving on. And move on we shall to Chapter 8. Pretty much right after we're done Chapter 7. We are heading straight to Chapter 8. Really no diversions, no nothing. We're just going to go right there. After we've collected the last Star Spirit, we will have all the Star Spirits in our possession, and we'll head up to Shooting Star Summit, where they will bind together to give us access to Bowser's Castle in the sky. Now, Chapter 8 is the final dungeon, which includes the final Bowser, which I will explain at the end of this section. This final dungeon is a doozy, and you will see. This final dungeon is not easy, and it's tricky. When you get to this point in the dungeon, there are 2 more life shrooms that we will be able to get, one of which we won't be able to get near the very end of the game, and the other we will get pretty early into the game. Pay attention to how many life shrooms you have. This will allow us to determine how many backups we are able to have. Luckily though, throughout this section, we will not be needing to be in a mega rush state until we get to the final junior troopa fight. Now, Bowser's Castle is separated into several chunks, which are sort of like divided by these little Bowser doors that are snarky and they make fun of you and whatnot. The first section of Bowser's Castle is going to be what's known as the lava basement, and it's very simple hallways with semi-platforming, semi-navigation with Lackey Lester, some para-carry shenanigans, but the goal of this area down here is going to be to shut off the magma in order to get access to the next area of the game. The next area is going to be a dark room in which you are suggested to use Watt to navigate, and if you're a beginner, use Watt. Yes, Watt is slower because we won't be able to use our spin move to navigate it faster. However, Watt is going to give you the light and visibility you need to get through this, and don't feel like you need to be fast at this. I never did this part fast. I always did it slow, just holding Watt. Experienced runners will know where they need to go and will likely not need to use Watt as frequently, but I am not an experienced runner, so therefore I just did this pretty casually. There is a very specific route we need to follow in order to actually get to the end. It's a Lost Woods scenario, but with 3 tiers of pathways, one in the top, one in the middle, and one at the bottom, and you just choose one, and if it's right, you can proceed. This is obviously referencing Super Mario Brothers, where in World 8 you have that little repeatable section that if you didn't go on the right pathway, it will make you do it again. Afterwards, you'll make it back to the top, where you'll be greeted by the Bowser door, who concedes in you being able to make it all the way to the top and lets you through the door. This is where we enter the first central hallway area of the castle. This central area has a save point, and it's kind of like a hub where if you can free the toads at the bottom, you can also get some extra stuff like life and whatnot. Again, we won't be really doing this. I would say though, as a point of improvisation, you could theoretically, try and play it safe and unlock all these extra little bits and bobs, because at this point the XP route is actually very irrelevant. Once you're at chapter 8, the only thing we'll be leveling up is our BP, and also at that point we will be getting to Final Bowser with 70 plus XP, close to another level up. So theoretically, if you wanted to waste a little bit of time just trying to get some safe stuff set up, you could. I wouldn't recommend it because I don't think you need to, but you could opt to do some sort of battle improvisation here, since the only thing that matters is us upgrading our BP once more in this area. That being said, from the central area, we're going to make our way to the right. There are 2 doors you can enter, but they suggest just taking the right side, so that's what we're going to do, taking the right side. And this is where we're going to be met with our first little puzzle section, and this puzzle section is going to involve sushi. Again, very easy room, nothing too crazy over here. It's just go find the levers, move the things, grab the key, and you're off. This next section though, hoo-wee! Remember back in chapter 1 when I talked about the bullet bills being a pain in the ass? Well, that does not change around these parts. This bullet bill section is horrible, and the bullet launchers in particular are really hard to run away from. While the bullet bills in general are easy to run away from, if you interact with a launcher, you most likely will not be able to run away from the battle, and you could see yourself dying. I actually have had to use a life shroom backup here multiple times, which really sucks because the Junior Troopa battle has a backup that you would need a life shroom for, which I didn't have. It's suggested that you use Dizzy Spin, which is a badge you collect early in the game, and this Dizzy Spin will allow you to not get first striked by the bullet launchers as you spin into them, and once you run away from the battle of the bullet bills themselves, you get the invincibility frames you need to navigate past the bullet launchers. And there's several floors of these launcher sections, so it's like a really, really tough section to navigate. Afterwards, though, you're going to make your way to the next area. This next area is going to be a set of hallways and rooms where you need to find out where the pathway is, and you're going to have to push blocks out of your way. This part is particularly annoying because when you're pushing a block out of the way, you have no control over your character as they are pushing it. However, the world around is still working and functioning. So any enemies that are spotting you while you are moving a rock, similar to how Dark Souls doors work, they are going to just attack you while you're invincible, and once you have control of your character, you no longer will be invincible. Luckily, there's a save point here, and a heart block to refill our health in case the going gets bad. But otherwise, we're going to get another key here and make our way through to the next Bowser door. This Bowser door is going to introduce a little game of memory where throughout each round, this Bowser door is going to send out a bunch of enemies that we have to pay attention to, and then they're going to ask us a question based off of what the enemies were wearing, what color they are, how many legs or arms they have. And the speedrun, luckily, has all the answers for you, so I had no worries. No problem getting past this part. The speedrun just literally says this. Afterwards, we're going to make our way to the next center room, similar to the first room, however, we are just higher up the castle. This is where I get hung up on. There is only one save point here, right up until we get past this next section. If we fail this next section, we have to just go back and do it again. Now, it's more of just a really long walk to get there, more than it is a challenge. The next set of rooms is simply just grab a key from a place, go through the key, then do a set of puzzle rooms where you need to follow you need to go in the correct sequence of doors, which you can do very fast. And then afterwards you will encounter a duplicos pretending to be Princess Peach, who you will have to use Hurricane on. And then you will make your way to the final Bowser door, which you will be greeted by the Koopa Bros. But not really, because Junior Trooper wants to battle you one more time and kicks out the Koopa Bros instead. This Junior Trooper battle is hard because we are required to block all 3 of its attacks, not just 1 or 2. In order for us to get to 1 HP, we absolutely need to block all 3. Once we're at peril, we're going to need to make sure our jumps are good. Also, during this period of time, while we're getting ourselves to peril, we're also using Super Jump Charge to get ourselves that extra damage for when we get to Mega Rush. Regardless, this is actually a tough fight because you need to be on the ball blocking the attacks. It's one of the hardest Junior Trooper fights to actually navigate properly. Action commands are just really hard in Paper Mario, and it's a big learning curve with learning this type of speedrun. There is, of course, a backup if we have a spare life shroom that we can use for this type of fight. Then there isn't a life shroom backup, luckily, in case things get really bad. But that also is dependent on how well our jumps had been prior to this point. So you have to also factor that in. Failure to do this fight properly will result in a reset, and you'll have to go back to that last save point and then walk all the way back to Junior Trooper again. RIP. It is a big time loss. It's within like minutes of lost time each time. Probably like 7 or 8 for me, especially given the length of the battle itself that you might just screw up on. But if you get past Junior Trooper, that's the last time you're gonna have to worry about that. And we will be successfully in the Peach's Castle part, which is exactly the same as the castle we've experienced with Princess Peach throughout the game. There is also a backup life shroom in the library here in case you are short. Like I said, we need 3 life shrooms here. 3. But once our priorities are set up, we have saved the game too, it's important to save here, we can make our way to Final Bowser. Now, Final Bowser. To begin, there are actually 3 Bowser fights we will be doing, the last of which is the hardest. The first Bowser fight will take place in the hallway. This is a fight that we can script our way through a set of instructions. Very easy to get through, not a problem at all. As long as you have bow, we get out of sight and get through it. we're also going to be going through all of this up to the final fight with peril. So it's important that we're going to go into this first hallway Bowser fight with peril, which we can easily do after the Junior Troopa fight. After the hallway fight, Bowser's going to make his way up to the top of the castle, and then we're going to follow him up there. This is where we're going to enter the final sequence of the game. There are 3 phases to this fight. The first is a fight with Bowser. The second is a cutscene fight that really just should have been a cutscene, and I don't know why where you're just gonna press A a bunch of times and watch as Twink and Princess Peach battle Kammy Koopa. So I don't usually like to count this as a phase, but I like to also mention that is in there. And the reason why I want to mention that is because if we screw up the final Bowser fight, we need to restart the fight from the very beginning, which is a major time loss. The first fight, once again, pretty cut and dry, set of instructions. It's a little bit trickier to begin with, but like, it's not outside of the realm, and there's a lot of backups to this particular first fight. It's also worth noting that Bowser's going to start this first fight with 100 HP. Our goal in this first phase of the fight is to get Bowser's HP down to a certain area, which is going to be between 60 and 70 HP. Once we get Bowser down to that range, Bowser will trigger the cutscene, which will bring us into phase 2. And phase 2 of this final Bowser fight is where it's going to take us into the health that we left him at on phase 1. This is why it's really important to structure the fight in a certain way. The way the speedrun structures it is very important because of how Bowser functions. Unlike all the other boss fights that we have encountered in this game, Bowser is random. We actually don't know how Bowser is going to react to us at any point. However, we have ways to manipulate Bowser in our favor. First off, we will never be able to predict what type of attack Bowser is going to do. So it's important to practice Bowser just to get a sense of how to block his attacks. The speedrun guide suggests that we learn to block most of Bowser's attacks, but it's okay to miss some of the blocks. The general rule of thumb is we want to be attacking the Bowser as much as we can before we die. Upon death, we're going to use a life shroom, and then we're going to attack the Bowser some more, and we're going to rinse and repeat and go through the life shrooms, ideally killing Bowser by the end of our span of life shrooms. You want to get the kill on Bowser by the time you use your 3rd life shroom, if that's an indication of how you want to time this. The reason why we want to block Bowser's attacks is because it gives us an extra moment to jump on Bowser. We're going to come into this fight with 20 HP, and Bowser's attacks hit in the double digits, which means in some cases, some attacks are just going to outright kill you if you don't block them. Therefore, you've died and only attacked Bowser once when you could have attacked Bowser twice and gotten that extra damage in. What's also important to note, as well, a lot of speedrunners will mention, is Bowser's healing range. You see, after a certain amount of health has been taken off of Bowser, Bowser will enter a range in which they will be allowed to use a move that will heal them for 30 HP, which, by the way, is devastating and will kill the run for you. In order to circumvent this, as long as we are at 5 or below HP, Bowser will not heal, and that's a means of balancing the character. So as long as we stay at a low HP, Bowser will never heal and will just continue to attack us. However, if we use a life stream and get back up to 10 HP, Bowser is within healing range again. Bowser enters this healing range after he initially, as far as I know, after he initially speaks out his dialogue, which is, "This battle isn't over yet," and that is when, I believe, is when he is within that range to heal. It's very important the amount of damage we are dealing, and also it's very important to not deal excess damage to Bowser. On the initial parts of the fight, before we get that next line of dialogue, it's important for us to not try and take too much damage off of Bowser, or else he'll be within healing range sooner than we're ready to deal with him. That's because we want to get through our life shrooms in an effective manner in order to time our ability to kill Bowser in a very efficient manner that won't have Bowser healing at any point. We also, throughout the run, collected some repel gels, which will be used as backups in case Bowser reacts in a certain way after we have used our first life shroom. I don't really want to go into the full intricacies of the fight, but I want to give you an example of how a fight actually goes with this. Rip. That's brutal. Which means if he does fire, then I'm resetting, I think, honestly. Claw attack. Okay, good, good. Good, good, good. Alright, that's good. Okay, we're on track now. We're on track. We're good. Because we are supposed to die here, turn 3. This means if we died on turn 3, that means we're good. We're actually on good. We're actually on a good track here. H rock Chattanooga. Yeah, I wish there was an H here. So as long as things are going relatively well, as long as things are still going well for as far as blocking and attacking goes, we should be able to attack and kill him after using the second life shroom. But if we missed a block and the rhythm got all messed up, then we lose, and we'll probably yeah, see, so that's gonna mess up the rhythm. Which means if he heals, we reset. So now we do nothing. We hope he attacks, but he's gonna he's 75% chance. Okay, nice, actually. Okay, great. So now we go repel gel. Yeah, that's why the life shrooms are required for this type of run. Yeah, it gets rid of the poison, exactly. Dying is like, yeah, dying is a real strat. Alright, we'll keep this going. Maybe we repel gel first? I think we repel gel first. Let him do whatever. Then peach beam or something. I'm gonna try this way and see if that's a better organization, because we have to think about on the next room, Bowser will probably heal. It's a 75% chance, so like we have to play it strategically here. And then now we have to full send it now. And now the next room. Okay, it's gonna kill us here. Okay, we're gonna just jump on Bowser and hope he dies. If he doesn't, we reset. That's all we got left, roughly. I mean, if he heals. Let's fucking go! Yes! I honestly just say YOLO. Every single time I've YOLO'd this, I've gotten a win, which goes to show that I think our math is pretty good. And the way that they describe it in the document is as long as you've blocked many of the shots, then you should actually be able to get out of this fight no problem. If we block none of the shots though, we're definitely way behind on getting Bowser down enough on health to kill it. But on my opinion, if we have gone through this pretty smoothly and we've gone to the third life shroom, then in my opinion, I just say attack into Bowser. Just go full force. Power jump, shell shot, and hope it works. If you didn't end up killing him there, then you just have to do this and pray that he doesn't heal and he attacks into you instead. Which sometimes 75% chance. But regardless, that's the fight. And once we beat Bowser, then we save the day. Bowser gets shunned and the castle gets returned to its former glory on the ground in Toad Town, and everybody celebrates. And that's the game. That's the run. 5:13:55. There it is. We're done. Oh man, I'm just looking at my recording uptime, and this video is probably going to be a really long one. So thank you for watching, and also please watch this video. I don't know. Anyway, throughout the course of 8 days, I managed to get 2 complete runs and 1 practice run that was untimed throughout the course of the learning period. A lot of my days were spent focusing on certain sections of the run so that my memory would be able to hold on to these concepts so that the next time I'd run through it, I wouldn't have to worry about where I was supposed to go next. Learning this speedrun in chunks was probably the best way to do it, and this is probably how I would recommend new runners getting in. Rather than just going through the whole game at once, just focus chapter by chapter or just chunks of chapter, and then just do those over and over again as a means to get that muscle memory and really get those core memories set in your head. After 3 complete runs, 2 of which were timed, I ended up with a place that would have put me into the top 100 position on the leaderboard, which was a going goal going into this challenge. So I'm pretty excited about that. However, because I was doing this run on an EverDrive, because I actually don't have a copy of Paper Mario. I mean, yeah, I do. It's somewhere in the house. Due to that fact, EverDrive is actually banned on the leaderboard, and the mods kindly mentioned the fact that unfortunately they can't accept the run because of that. However, they did mention that that is something they're currently talking about unbanning or allowing in speedruns in the future. So they told me to keep an eye out because this rule could change over time. Whether or not it's posted or whatever, I still managed to pull out a top 100 time, even though I was playing it on an EverDrive. Which honestly, the EverDrive I feel like is slower because you still have to load the ROM on the cartridge rather than just press reset and it just lights up. But who knows, maybe I can find an actual copy of Paper Mario in the wild for cheap and just pick that up and maybe go back and try the run again. Not only was this a really good experience to learn about the intricacies of RPG speedrunning, but also just it was a great way of experiencing the game that I already really enjoyed on my first casual playthrough. This type of speedrun is also very approachable for new players. It's not easy, and I definitely had my own struggles with it, but the guides that exist, such as the JCog videos and the document itself, are very well detailed and help all beginners really get a grasp of the game on a whole. I will caution though, however, that it is a hard run to learn. Even though it's very accessible to new players, it is very hard to learn and it does take a lot of practice. You have to just be disciplined in learning the run and, you know, getting through that. But if you're willing to put in the effort and learn a really cool speedrun such as Paper Mario, then I still would say give it a shot. I came in with virtually no experience in Paper Mario besides a casual stream of it I did last year, and I don't regret it. It was a fun month of learning, and a lot of people in the chat were also really enjoying the learning process of the runs as well. And if you also want to be a part of the chat, once again, I recommend check out my Twitch stream, link in the description, and you too can be a part of video history, I guess, if you want to call it video history. But that's it. That's the video I want to make today. That was a lot of talking for this type of speedrun, and I hope it came across, and I hope you enjoyed this type of content. I do have other challenges I'm looking to do, maybe not at this sort of length, but if you did enjoy this video, leave a like and drop a sub because I do want to make better videos like this in the future. And until next time, I'll see you around. But thank you for watching my breakdown of my experience in Paper Mario speedrunning, and I hope you can take something useful from this, and we'll see you in the next one.